It's such a contrast from yesterday. The weather is so nice today. Might even get the drones out later on. But yeah, yesterday was proper misty. But this is so much better. So much sunnier. It's the morning again. So welcome to the lovely Cornish countryside again. And yeah, God, I love it out here. Absolutely awesome. What is it with privacy these days? It seems like everybody wants to change their privacy policy all at once. Could possibly have something to do with GDPR, of course. It's coming into effect extremely quickly. But it just seems like the last few weeks there's been all sorts of websites sending you emails, and it's quite crazy if you think about how much information is actually stored on these third-party websites. And for web developers, I guess, we have used all sorts of third-party applications and technologies in our websites, and we call them in remotely. So here I'm talking about linking to external JavaScript files. So you could use Google Search, you could use Discuss, the commenting system. I guess as web developers, we should be cautious on what kind of services we are imposing on our customers and our users, because I don't want it to get to a point where we're having to make the user agree, accept some sort of confirmation thing just because they want to visit our website. Oh, I'm going to check that out. That's a public footpath. Perhaps we're giving away too much information. Perhaps we are using services just because they are convenient, just because we don't want to code them up. Like, for example, Discuss. Just imagine writing your own commenting system. It's perfectly possible, right? But there's a perfectly good one out there, which is Discuss. Personally, I've built sites on it, or using it. I haven't used it myself. Personally, I think it's quite a large amount of stuff. There's big overhead in using it. But I can see the desire and the need to use it, because why reinvent the wheel and everything. But nothing in life is free, and there's all sorts of things that you have to give away just because you're using an additional service. Check out this view. So that up here is St Michael's Mount. Alright, that is St Michael's Mount. That is amazing. What a lovely day. What an awesome day. Today we're going to St Ives, but we're going to St Ives via a train. So we'll probably pick up the train, maybe Penzance, and then go on to St Ives. This is awesome. So nice. So recently I have seen a push from web developers and people who own and maintain websites to analyze what services they use and to do a little bit of legwork, research what data is being given away, and see if there's any alternatives, to those servers. Not necessarily writing your own stuff, but looking if there is any more privacy friendly services out there. I think the biggest service, the biggest company that we use, the websites are in bed with these days, is Google, and I think that's going to be a challenge to move from the Google services to other services. It's certainly possible, but it is a bit of a challenge if you think of all the things that Google provide us as web developers. So for instance, you've got your Google searches, you've got your Google Analytics, you've got your Google fonts, you've got your Google page speeds, you've got all of those kind of tools and utilities and things that we can use and put onto our website to analyze our website, to improve our website, and all sorts of other things like that. When you use services like Instagram or Facebook, when you use those apps, you obviously install those things onto your phones or your tablets, And of course you have to agree and accept and conform to their terms of service, to their privacy policies, and these things are being updated all of the time. Of course, there isn't anything like that on the web. So when you build a website and you're using a third-party application or a third-party tool that may track users, may track what a user does, how they comment, what they comment on, that kind of thing, even if it's done in a sort of a meta kind of way, I don't think the general consumer realizes what tools our web systems actually use. Perhaps we need to do that. Perhaps we need to notify our viewers a little bit more, be a little bit more transparent perhaps. I don't know, I could be completely over jumping the mark here, but it just seems a little bit odd that all of these apps are sending out notifications that we need to read privacy policies, we need to read terms of services before we continue to use the services. And it's a bit like the GDPR stuff, right? So I've been sent all sorts of emails this week from companies I forgot that I was even dealing with, where they're saying that I need to go back to the website and resubscribe in order to continue on getting the newsletters. Those newsletters have probably just been going into my spam, but I didn't, you know, as a user I'm now informed I need to make a decision and so forth. Perhaps we need to do that more on the websites. I don't know, maybe we do, maybe we don't. Even if we don't though, I think that we need to, as a community, as web developers, I think we need to understand a little bit more of the services or the applications that we use, the third-party stuff, so the third-party JavaScript stuff. And I think that we should use this time as a time to look for alternatives and see if there's any different solutions out there to the things that we are using. And even if it's the case of just looking at what fonts you use from Font Awesome and only using those rather than actually using the whole library, or whether you're using the whole Bootstrap library and if you can get away with just using parts of it, that kind of thing. I think this whole using third-party solutions is obviously a good thing, and it fills a need, it fulfills a need. But I think that we as web developers could do a lot more in terms of just sort of narrowing down what it is that we're actually requiring from these third parties. I'm going to go and see if there's a field up here, see if I can get a little bit higher. At the very least, of course, it will be making our websites smaller, so there'll be less overhead, which makes it faster for the users to view, which is a good thing, right? It's a good thing. It's a good thing to do. The thing that really does stick with me though, as a freelancer, is that the clients will be requiring us developers to have the knowledge of what services we use and to be understanding of what data those services capture. So for instance, there's been all sorts of issues in the news where companies have mishandled data from some way or another. And I think that there is a grey area where I'm unaware of the ins and outs and all the dotting the I's and crossing the T's of all the data that is captured from the services that I have on some of my client websites. So if there was ever a breach of data, or if one of those services did something that wasn't great with the data that is captured, then it would be my responsibility as a freelancer to understand that. Maybe I'm just blowing it into, you know, completely out of proportion here. I've just found another field. Ah man, this is windy. Whoop. This is windy and completely unstable, but that up there, Let's move on a little bit further so it's out of the bushes. There we go, St Michael's Mount. Of course, the more I go up, the more noise there is, because we're getting closer and closer to the main road. Now, I have recently been asked to update a terms of service on one of my clients' websites, but that was more terms of service on what they do rather than what services they use to do that. And personally, I think that not particularly them, but a lot of clients in this freelance world are just not aware of what is being used on their websites. But anyway, if you think that I'm completely blowing this out of proportion, or if you do think that this is a legitimate concern for web development going forward in the future, then do let me know. Do let me know. Put your thoughts down in the comments below. I'm going to grab some breakfast and then we're going to go off to St Ives. So I'll leave you with some footage that we've taken on our trip to St Ives in this lovely Cornish countryside. Thanks for watching, happy coding, see you again next time. Cheers, bye.